all? What? All 5 out at once? The younger ones out before the older are married? Your youngest sisters must be very young.
Yes, Ma'am, my youngest is not 16.
I think the worst snob in Pride and Prejudice is Lady Catherine de Bourgh. I mean, there are various degrees and types of snobbery on display in the book. There's inverse snobbery as well as straightforward snobbery. But Lady Catherine, I think, her snobbery is shown at its heart to be vulgar in that confrontation at the end with Elizabeth Bennet, when she demands that she give up Darcy. I mean, she oversteps the mark of decorum in that she seeks to bully her by force of her personality, throwing at her all her connections with the people that Lady Catherine constructs as being unfit to pollute the shades of Pemberley, I think she says. But she gets my money as the worst snob.
I have another objection. Your youngest sister's infamous elopement. I know it all. Oh, is such a girl to be my nephew's sister-in-law? Are the shades of Pemberley to be thus polluted?
You can have nothing further to say. You have insulted me by every possible method. I must beg to return to the house.
At this time, very many people depended on having a patron, on patronage. So that, for instance, Mr. Collins has Lady Catherine de Bourgh as his very noble patron, and he's infinitely grateful to her for every bit of notice that she gives him. But it is, in fact, a serious business. You needed somebody in the aristocracy to take an interest in you, to give you a job, or you wouldn't have a living. So the fact that she has kindly bestowed on him this church in her grounds, he is completely dependent on her, so he'll have to follow every single whim if he doesn't want to be out on his ear.
Lady Catherine de Bourgh herself was kind enough to suggest that these shelves be fitted exactly as you see them there.
Shelves in the closet. Happy thought indeed.
Oh, she is kindness itself. Nothing is too small to be beneath her notice.
I think the chief difference between the polite society of Jane Austen's day and our own would be the position of members of the clergy and the militia within it, within fashionable society. Because the first thing to remember about the men who went into the church or into the army was that they didn't have to be particularly religious or martial. They simply were younger sons or men in need of a position in life.
I understand, as my younger sisters are not yet able to, that handsome young men must have something to live on as well as the plain ones.
Bennet, I would wish you to believe me that had circumstances been different...
Had old Mr. Darcy never had a son? Oh, yes. But life is full of these trials, as my sister Mary reminds us daily. I sincerely wish you every happiness in the world.
You're very forbearing.
I flatter myself I am. I think Jane would be quite proud of me.
I hope you and I, at least, will always be good friends.
I'm sure we shall, Mr. Wickham.
At this time, the militia was held in rather high regard, or certainly the upper ranks of it. So you would, for instance, get people like Colonel Fitzwilliam, who's Darcy's cousin, serving in the army. He's described in the book as the younger son of an earl, so obviously his older brother has inherited the estates, and he says he has to make money. He also says he has to marry money because he doesn't have enough of his own. So from families like that, it was perfectly respectable to go into the army.
I think music is a very important thing in this whole story. I mean, it's partly one of those things, one of those accomplishments that young ladies must have. I don't know how important they are. Bingley gives a list of them. Miss Bingley talks about all the things they should be. What do you think? Do you think any of them are very important in themselves, or is it what you can do through them?
I get the feeling it's more of a, you have to have this list of accomplishments to prove that you're a proper lady.
Do you play, Miss Bennet?
Aye, but very ill indeed.
But all young ladies are accomplished. They sing, they draw, they dance, speak French and German, cover screens and I know not what.
There are not half a dozen who would satisfy my notion of an accomplished woman.
Oh, certainly. No woman can be really esteemed accomplished who does not also possess a certain something in her air, in the manner of walking, in the tone of her voice, her address and expressions.
And to all this, she must yet add something more substantial. In the improvement of her mind by extensive reading.
I'm no longer surprised at you knowing only 6 accomplished women, Mr. Darcy. I rather wonder at you knowing any.
You are very severe upon your sex, Miss Bennet.
I must speak as I find.
Perhaps you have not had the advantage, Miss Bennet, of moving in society enough. There are many very accomplished young ladies amongst our acquaintance.
And Lizzie just thinks, good grief, you know.
Yes.
I'm amazed any woman has any of these things, which we all kind of agree with. But it's, to me, that maybe is part of this whole thing about class and standing, that the more accomplishments you have, the more strings to your bow, the better the man you get.
I think it actually doesn't work like that, and that's the interesting thing about novels. And it seems to me in novels, and Jane Austen's are just like that the heroine never really has the accomplishments. It's somebody else who's really got the accomplishments. And I think the point in all the novels at the time is that unless you can do it naturally, it's no good. So the character who really trumps everybody else is Elizabeth, because she can play enough to play and to give pleasure to a sensible man like that.
Expressing her attractive personality.
Yes, and her slight rebelliousness, you know. But it's really rebelliousness against people who are too earnest to catch husbands, too obvious. And she's actually implying that she's got better taste, really, than somebody like Mary, who's worked too hard on it and just isn't very good.
Mary, let's have no more of that dull stuff. Play something jolly. We want to dance.
But there are still 2 movements. Mamma, tell them it isn't fair.
Oh, play a jig, Mary. No one wants your concertos here.
I fear their taste is not as fine as yours and mine, Mary, but let us oblige them this once, for there is no one here who plays as well as you.
Very well, though you know it gives me little pleasure.
Jane, Mr. Bingley, come and dance with us.
Not now, Lydia.
Dances were immensely important at this time. They gave an opportunity for young men and women to meet and to court, if you like. So they were always eagerly awaited. It was also an opportunity for men and women to talk unchaperoned, because the dances went on for so long and a couple worked their way from one end of the room to the other, and there were long periods in the dances where they actually stood out while other people progressed down the room, and this gave an opportunity for actually trying to get to know each other.
May I ask to what these questions tend?
Merely to the illustration of your character. I'm trying to make it out.
And what is your success?
I do not get on at all. I hear such different accounts.
These English country dances that you see in Pride and Prejudice, they're called long ways progressive, for as many as will. They are superb, beautiful English dances that were danced in the country houses and in the court. And Mr. Beveridge's Maggot is a supreme example of that. And it has this harmony which almost reflects the architecture of the time, the furniture of the time, the landscape gardening of the time. There's a classical, harmonious figure dance. And this is why there's a tremendous satisfaction in watching it and watching it repeating itself. And there is a reflection in their relationship, Elizabeth and Darcy, because they are playing out something too, where they come together, they go away, they come together, they're sort of drawn back into the centre all the time. You should feel when you look at the dance that these are 2 people who are going to, at some point, really get on extremely well.